Imagine this. You wake up one morning, coffee in hand, mind buzzing with thoughts of your next big move, whether it's launching a business, navigating office politics, or just surviving family dinner without a mental breakdown. Now pause. What if I told you you're already at war? Not the kind with bullets and bombs, but a daily battlefield of ambition, betrayal, strategy, and survival. Welcome to the 33 Strategies of War by Robert Greene, a book that doesn't just sit quietly on your shelf, but kicks down your mental door like a seasoned general, looks you in the eye and says, gear up. Life is a campaign. Now this ain't your average self-help fluff. No sugarcoating. No just manifested nonsense. Greene grabs the brutal brilliance of military history, psychology, and raw power and translates it into a playbook for everyday dominance. Think Sun Tzu meets street smarts. Napoleon meets your 9-to-5. Ares meets Instagram warfare. You're not just living, you're commanding. Every conversation is a negotiation. Every delay, a tactic. Every alliance, a risk. And while others stumble through chaos and drama, you'll have strategy. But don't get it twisted. This isn't about being ruthless for the sake of it. It's about being prepared. When the chaos hits, and it will you freeze, fight blindly, or smile calmly, knowing the next 5 moves? We're diving into strategies that helped Alexander crush empires, that fueled guerrilla warriors, and that made moguls like Rockefeller untouchable. And we're dragging them, kicking and screaming, into the modern day to make you the strategist of your own life. So tighten your boots, Commander. This isn't just a book, it's a mindset. And this is your war briefing. Part 1, Self-Directed Warfare. Strategy 1, Declare war on your enemies, the polarity strategy. Robert Greene begins his book with a foundational mindset. To achieve clarity, power, and direction in life, you must first identify and declare war on your enemies. But this isn't about open confrontation. This is an internal declaration. Greene argues that life is full of hidden conflict. Enemies come in many forms. Toxic people, societal expectations, past versions of yourself, or even your own fear and indecision. If you ignore or deny their presence, you allow them to sabotage you quietly. The polarity strategy is about creating mental sharpness through opposition. When you define who or what stands against you, you draw a clear boundary, and this boundary provides energy and focus. Just like magnets need opposing poles to create force, you need a target to push against to generate movement in your life. Greene warns of false allies, those who pretend to support you but undermine you behind the scenes. These are the most dangerous enemies because they erode your confidence subtly. He encourages readers to study people's actions over their words and look for patterns of hidden hostility. Declaring war means refusing to be passive. You don't need to attack, but you do need to be alert and strategic. The inner declaration is a commitment to stop tolerating sabotage, stop delaying progress, and take your power back. In short, by identifying enemies and embracing the tension they create, you awaken purpose, resilience, and direction. That is the first step to becoming a true strategist. Strategy 3. Amidst the turmoil of events, do not lose your presence of mind. The counterbalance strategy, self-directed warfare. This strategy is all about mastering your internal battlefield, your emotions. Robert Greene argues that in any conflict, personal, professional, or political, your greatest vulnerability isn't your opponent, but your own mind under pressure. The chaos of life provokes fear, rage, panic, and overreaction. That's why Greene offers the counterbalance strategy, the art of cultivating calm, clarity, and control when everything around you is collapsing. Presence of mind is what separates winners from victims. In the heat of battle, emotions cloud judgment. But when you stay centered, you can think 2, 3, even 4 steps ahead. Greene draws on generals and leaders who stayed cool under fire, not because they were emotionless, but because they trained themselves to detach, observe, and act strategically rather than react impulsively. To build this inner calm, Greene advises a kind of mental conditioning. Expose yourself to stressful situations deliberately. Welcome adversity, not to suffer, but to harden your mind. Like a soldier training under fire, your goal is to normalize pressure until it no longer shakes you. He also warns against emotional contagion. Panic spreads fast. One hysterical voice can infect a whole group. You must become a stabilizing force, someone others trust in crisis. not because you know everything, but because you remain anchored. The battlefield of life will always be chaotic, but if you learn to quiet your inner storms, you can act while others freeze, plan while others panic, and win while others unravel. Presence of mind isn't a gift, it's a muscle. Train it, use it, live by it. Strategy 2. Do not fight the last war. The Guerrilla War of the Mind Strategy, Part 1, Self-Directed Warfare. Robert Greene warns, one of the deadliest habits in strategy and in life is relying on yesterday's solutions to fight today's battles. Humans crave patterns, and once we've won with a certain method, we cling to it. But the terrain has changed, the enemy has evolved, and while you're stuck sharpening an old weapon, the world's already moved on. This is where the Guerrilla War of the Mind strategy comes in. Greene urges you to break out of rigid, traditional thinking. The modern strategist must be like a guerrilla fighter, adaptable, fluid, creative, and always in motion. Instead of charging headfirst with brute force, you strike unexpectedly from new angles and vanish before your opponent knows what hit them. Mental guerrilla warfare starts with one command: kill your comfort zone. That includes old habits, beliefs, and emotional crutches. Are you overthinking a decision the same way you always do? Still holding on to how things should be? Still defining yourself by past wins or traumas? That's old war. Time to go off script. Greene's insight here is razor sharp. We often trap ourselves, not because of the enemy, but because we refuse to evolve. We romanticize the past, relive old victories, or replay defeats, and that mental loop turns us into easy targets. The key is to stay mentally, emotionally unattached, and strategically agile. Guerrilla fighters win because they don't obey the rules. They create their own, and so must you. Adapt or perish. Think fluid, move smart, fight now, not then. Strategy 3. Amidst the turmoil of events, do not lose your presence of mind. The Counterbalance Strategy. Part 1, Self-Directed Warfare. This strategy is all about mastering your internal battlefield, your emotions. Robert Greene argues that in any conflict, personal, professional, or political, your greatest vulnerability isn't your opponent, but your own mind under pressure. The chaos of life provokes fear, rage, panic, and overreaction. That's why Greene offers the counterbalance strategy, the art of cultivating calm, clarity, and control when everything around you is collapsing. Presence of mind is what separates winners from victims. In the heat of battle, emotions cloud judgment. But when you stay centered, you can think 2, 3, even 4 steps ahead. Greene draws on generals and leaders who stayed cool under fire, not because they were emotionless, but because they trained themselves to detach, observe, and act strategically rather than react impulsively. To build this inner calm, Greene advises a kind of mental conditioning. Expose yourself to stressful situations deliberately. Welcome adversity, not to suffer, but to harden your mind. Like a soldier training under fire, your goal is to normalize pressure until it no longer shakes you. He also warns against emotional contagion. Panic spreads fast. One hysterical voice can infect a whole group. You must become a stabilizing force, someone others trust in crisis, not because you know everything, but because you remain anchored. The battlefield of life will always be chaotic, but if you learn to quiet your inner storms, you can act while others freeze, plan while others panic, and win while others unravel. Presence of mind isn't a gift, it's a muscle. Train it, use it, live by it. Strategy 4. Create a sense of urgency and desperation, the Death Ground Strategy. Part 1, Self-Directed Warfare. In this strategy, Robert Greene introduces one of the most powerful tools in a strategist's arsenal: desperation. The Death Ground Strategy is drawn from an ancient military principle. When soldiers are trapped with no escape route, they fight with unmatched ferocity. Greene argues you can create that same intensity in your life by deliberately placing yourself in situations where retreat isn't an option. Too often, we cling to comfort and keep Plan B nearby, thinking it gives us safety. But in reality, that safety net kills urgency. Greene says having too many options weakens resolve, makes you hesitate, and allows fear to creep in. When your back is against the wall, hesitation dies. Creativity, courage, and boldness come alive. The key is not to wait for life to push you to the edge, but to put yourself on death ground. Burn the bridges, set the deadline, quit the crutch. Force yourself to act now, not someday. Greene gives historical examples, from generals who won impossible battles to entrepreneurs who launched with everything on the line. The lesson is clear. When you remove the escape hatch, you unlock dormant strength. But he cautions, this strategy isn't about reckless risk. It's about intentionally manufactured urgency. You must control the chaos, not be consumed by it. In essence, the death ground strategy is about sparking your survival instinct, channeling fear into focused energy, and proving to yourself that pressure doesn't break you, it sharpens you. Strategy 5. Avoid the snares of groupthink, the command and control strategy, Part 2, Organizational Warfare. In Strategy 5, Robert Greene shifts from the internal battlefield to the challenge of leading others. The focus here is on organization and leadership, and the enemy is subtle but dangerous: groupthink. When people work in teams, there's often pressure to conform, keep harmony, and avoid conflict. But that leads to diluted decisions, false consensus, and weak execution. Greene warns that without strong leadership, a group becomes chaotic, or worse, locked in false unity while marching toward failure. Enter the command-control strategy. This isn't about being a dictator. It's about building a system that allows you to maintain control without micromanaging. You must be the center of gravity in your group, decisive, informed, and strategic. But at the same time, you must create the illusion of participation. Let people feel heard, give them roles, encourage feedback, but always keep the reins in your hands. Greene stresses the importance of a clear chain of command. Ambiguity breeds power struggles. If roles aren't defined, or if leadership appears weak, people start acting on ego instead of mission. He also cautions against democratic decision-making in high-stakes situations. Consensus sounds noble, but it often leads to watered-down results. Instead, invite input, but you decide. Strategy isn't about fairness, it's about effectiveness. In the end, successful teams require structure, clarity, and a single guiding mind. Your job as a leader isn't to please everyone, it's to steer the ship, even through mutiny and storm. Strategy 6. Segment your forces. The Controlled Chaos Strategy. Part 2, Organizational Team Warfare. In Strategy 6, Robert Greene dives into the art of managing complexity. The bigger your goals, the more moving parts you have to control: teams, projects, alliances. But trying to control everything at once is a fast track to breakdown. That's where the Controlled Chaos Strategy comes in. The central idea: break your forces into smaller but independent units, teams, departments, or missions that can move fast, think for themselves, and adapt without waiting for your every command. This gives you speed, flexibility, and resilience, key traits in a fast-changing world. Greene draws from military history and business alike. Great generals and CEOs didn't try to move massive, slow armies. They unleashed mobile, self-directed squads with clear objectives. These smaller groups could strike quickly, pivot fast, and create confusion for the enemy. But here's the genius twist. It's not total chaos. It's controlled chaos. You're not just scattering your people, you're empowering them within a structured framework. You still define the grand strategy, the core mission, the rules of engagement. Within that structure, your forces operate semi-independently. This strategy also builds morale. Teams that own their mission fight harder. They don't feel like cogs, they feel like commanders. And if one unit fails, the whole system doesn't collapse. You stay agile. In short, don't micromanage. Don't centralize every decision. Instead, create a network of sharp, focused units that can respond to challenges faster than the enemy can react. Divide not to weaken, but to conquer with speed. Strategy 7. Transform your war into a crusade. Morale Strategies. Part 2, Organizational Team Warfare. Strategy 7 is all about igniting passion in the people you lead. Robert Greene knows that even the best strategies fall flat if the team behind them is unmotivated, divided, or just going through the motions. That's why he introduces the morale strategies, centered on one powerful idea: turn your mission into a crusade. People will fight harder, endure longer, and sacrifice more when they believe they're fighting for something bigger than themselves. It's not enough to assign tasks. You must instill purpose. Greene draws on history's most legendary movements, from revolutionary armies to visionary companies, to show how leaders inspired loyalty by making their cause feel sacred. The trick? Create a sense of meaning. Frame your objective as a just struggle, a battle against a common enemy, or a mission to change the world. Make it personal, emotional, and urgent. When people feel they're part of a grand narrative, they own the fight. Greene also emphasizes symbolism and ritual. Flags, mottos, uniforms, shared stories. These aren't empty gestures. They forge identity and unity. When morale is high, people push through hardship. When it's low, they crumble under the slightest resistance. But beware, this isn't about manipulation for manipulation's sake. You must believe in the mission too. False passion is easy to spot and fatal to trust. So if you're leading a team, don't just give orders, give them a reason to believe. Turn your strategy into a movement, your plan into a purpose. Because an inspired army doesn't just execute, it conquers. Strategy 8, pick your battles carefully. The perfect economy strategy. Part 3, defensive warfare. Now we step into the realm of defensive warfare, where the goal isn't to strike first, but to strike wisely. In Strategy 8, Robert Greene introduces a timeless lesson for warriors, leaders, and anyone aiming to win without burning out. Don't fight every battle, fight the right ones. This is the perfect economy strategy, a call to be selective, patient, and ruthlessly strategic. Greene warns that energy, time, and resources are limited. Every conflict you engage in, whether it's a petty argument, a business rivalry, or a public feud, costs you more than you think. Pride makes people fight too often. Fear makes them avoid conflict altogether. But strategy? Strategy makes you pause and ask, is this fight worth it? Great generals, Greene notes, don't storm every fortress. They bypass the strongholds, hit where it hurts, and conserve strength for the battles that decide wars. The same applies to life. Chasing every slight, reacting to every insult, or diving into every drama is a sure way to exhaust yourself and lose focus. This strategy is about calculating the unseen cost, your reputation, your momentum, your mental state. Sometimes the best move is retreat. Sometimes it's delay. Sometimes it's letting the enemy burn out while you watch. In short, power comes not from fighting often, but from fighting smart. So the next time someone provokes you or drags you toward conflict, ask, is this my war or just noise? Strategy 9. Turn the tables, the counterattack strategy, Part 3, defensive warfare. In Strategy 9, Robert Greene reveals a counterintuitive truth about power. Sometimes the strongest move is to let your enemy strike first. This is the heart of the counterattack strategy, a masterful way to use your opponent's aggression against them. When you attack first, you reveal your hand. You commit energy. You limit options. But when you hold back, when you let others make the first move, you stay in control. You observe. You learn their strategy. You spot weaknesses. And when the time is right, you strike back with precision. Greene draws on countless examples from warfare, politics, and business where restraint gave leaders the upper hand. Think Muhammad Ali using rope-a-dope, letting his opponent exhaust himself before delivering the knockout. Or political figures who absorbed criticism, waited, then launched devastating rebuttals when their rivals were vulnerable. The key here is emotional control. When attacked, your instinct might be to retaliate immediately. Don't. Let them overextend. Let them underestimate you. Let them expose themselves. Then, hit hard from an angle they never saw coming. This strategy also plays into psychological warfare. By not reacting, you confuse and frustrate your enemy. Their energy turns into anxiety. Their momentum fades. You remain the calm center in a storm of their own making. Greene's message is clear. In war, timing is everything. Let others waste their arrows. You save yours for the kill shot. That's the essence of counterattack. That's how you turn the tables. Strategy 10. Create a threatening presence. Deterrence strategies. Defensive warfare. In Strategy 10, Robert Greene unlocks one of the oldest and most psychological tactics in warfare. Win by making them afraid to fight you at all. Welcome to the world of deterrence strategies, where your power comes not from how often you strike, but from how dangerous you appear to be. Think of it like this. In nature, the most feared animals rarely have to fight. The rattlesnake gives a warning. The tiger just looks ready. In human conflict, the same applies. Greene argues that if you want to avoid endless battles, you must build a reputation so fierce, so unpredictable, so formidable, that others hesitate to even try you. But deterrence isn't just about muscle, It's about mystique. Greene recommends making yourself seem a little unhinged, a bit chaotic. The idea is to create strategic uncertainty. If people don't know what you'll do, if they can't predict your limits, they'll tread carefully. He also emphasizes consistency. Once you build a reputation, protect it. If someone tests your boundaries, respond so decisively that it becomes a warning for everyone else. Think of it as setting the price for disrespect, high, fast, and unforgettable. However, Greene cautions against empty threats. If you bluff too often and don't back it up, you lose all deterrent power. Your bark must always hint at bite. So whether you're leading a team, navigating office politics, or guarding your personal space, don't just defend. Become the person it's dangerous to cross. That's real defense. That's deterrence. Strategy 11. Trade space for time. The non-engagement strategy defensive warfare. Sometimes the smartest move is to do nothing at all, at least for now. In Strategy 11, Robert Greene introduces the art of strategic patience with the non-engagement strategy. Don't rush into battles that don't serve you. Buy time, not territory. When provoked or pressured, most people react. They argue, defend, strike back. But Greene flips the script. He teaches that retreat is not weakness, it's wisdom. Just like great generals have pulled back from a stronger enemy to regroup and regain advantage, you too can withdraw, not to surrender, but to delay until the odds are in your favor. Greene draws from historical campaigns where stepping back saved entire armies. In business and life, this means not jumping into bad deals, toxic arguments, or battles that drain energy and offer little gain. It's knowing when to stand still so the enemy overcommits or self-destructs. The secret is to reframe time as a weapon. Use it to think, observe, plan, and let emotions cool. Let the other side waste energy, make mistakes, reveal intentions. While they burn, you prepare. But Greene is clear. This isn't passive avoidance. It's active restraint. Non-engagement is about control of the situation, of your resources, and especially of yourself. In a culture that glorifies fast reactions, Greene gives you permission to pause, because sometimes the most crushing move isn't a punch, it's silence, followed by a well-timed strike. Step back, breathe, let time fight for you. Strategy 12. Lose battles but win the war. Grand Strategy, Part 4, Offensive Warfare. Now we enter the offensive arena, where the goal isn't just to fight back, but to fight smart and strike decisively. In Strategy 12, Robert Greene reveals the essence of high-level power. Think long-term, act with patience, and even if you lose a few battles. This is the grand strategy, the art of seeing the big picture. Too many people get caught up in petty conflicts, daily wins, or ego-driven feuds. They obsess over every insult or setback, reacting emotionally and wasting energy. Greene says, stop. Let others chase small victories while you play the long game. He draws from history's greatest commanders, like Napoleon and Scipio Africanus, who understood that short-term losses can be strategic. They sacrificed terrain, reputation, even entire battles to set traps, build alliances, or position themselves for a crushing final blow. The real genius? They never lost sight of the end game. In life, that might mean taking a hit in business to gain market share later, walking away from a toxic argument to protect a bigger goal, or enduring criticism to gather strength for a comeback. Greene reminds us that reaction is the enemy of strategy. Don't get dragged into the moment. Stay focused on your ultimate objective. Grand strategy is about detachment, vision, and deliberate patience. While others win the battle of the hour, you're engineering victory over the decade. So zoom out. Step above the chaos. You're not just fighting, you're orchestrating your future. Strategy 13. Know your enemy, the intelligent strategy, offensive warfare. Victory isn't always about force. Often it's about information. In Strategy 13, Robert Greene shows that knowing your enemy deeply, intimately, is one of the deadliest advantages you can have. This is the intelligence strategy. Learn everything about your opponent before they even realize they're in a war. Greene draws from military legends like Napoleon and Chinese warlords who understood that battles are won before the first shot is fired. Spies, informants, and subtle observation allowed them to exploit weaknesses, predict moves, and dismantle enemies from the inside out. The same applies in everyday life. The person who listens the most, watches carefully, and keeps their intentions hidden, almost always wins. The key? Detach from your emotions. Hatred, jealousy, or arrogance blinds you. When you're emotionally invested, you stop seeing your enemy objectively. Greene urges you to become a cold, curious observer. What are their patterns? What motivates them? Where do they get careless? Who do they rely on? You don't need brute strength, you need insight. He also emphasizes camouflage. While you study others, never let them study you. Misdirection is a critical part of intelligence. Feed them false information. Play the fool. Pretend you don't care. Meanwhile, you're collecting data like a quiet predator. In a world of noise, most people miss the details. But strategy lives in the shadows, in observation, analysis, and silence. So don't shout your next move. Study theirs instead. Because when you know the enemy better than they know themselves, you've already won. Strategy 14. Overwhelm resistance with speed and suddenness. The Blitzkrieg Strategy, Part 4, Offensive Warfare. In Strategy 14, Robert Greene throws you headfirst into the doctrine of momentum and shock. This is the Blitzkrieg Strategy, named after the legendary Boatu tactic used by the Germans to devastate enemies through speed, surprise, and overwhelming force. The idea is simple but lethal. Don't give your opponents time to react. Move so fast, so unexpectedly, and with such intensity that resistance collapses before it can even organize. Greene reminds us that hesitation is the death of initiative. The longer you delay, the more the enemy prepares, the more doubt creeps in, and the more energy is lost. Blitzkrieg isn't about brute force. It's about velocity and precision. In war, this means coordinated attacks that strike at weak points with lightning speed. In life, it's launching a project before competitors can respond, seizing an opportunity the moment it appears, or confronting a problem before it grows teeth. Greene warns that most people move too slowly. They overanalyze, seek perfection, or wait for the right moment, which usually never comes. Meanwhile, the bold storm forward, make waves, and break through psychological defenses before anyone can say no. To apply Blitzkrieg, you must be decisive, prepared, and bold. You plan intensely, then strike suddenly. The surprise creates panic. The speed creates confusion. And before your target can recover, the battle's already over. In a world of overthinkers and slow movers, be the lightning. Don't knock, kick down the door. Attack fast, finish faster, leave nothing but dust behind. Strategy 15. Control the dynamic, forcing strategies for offensive warfare. In Strategy 15, Robert Greene shifts focus from speed to control. Specifically, how to dominate the flow of battle so your enemy always dances to your rhythm. This is the forcing strategy. Don't react to the enemy, make them react to you. In war, politics, or business, the person who controls the tempo controls the outcome. Greene shows how great commanders, negotiators, and strategists don't wait for the opponent's next move. They set traps, craft dilemmas, and force decisions that corner their enemy into predictable, self-destructive behavior. The goal? Put them on defense, always. When people are defending, they're not thinking, they're off balance, scrambling, making emotional choices. That's exactly where you want them. To do this, Greene recommends applying pressure in calculated bursts. Provoke, mislead, or offer a tempting option that's actually a trap. Keep shifting the ground beneath your opponent so they're always trying to catch up. They'll waste energy chasing your shadow while you stay steps ahead. But it's not just about aggression. It's about psychological dominance. You appear in control because you are in control. Even silence can be a forcing move if it creates anxiety and draws a rash reaction. Greene also warns, never let your enemies set the terms of engagement. If they do, they control the field, and you're already halfway to losing. Take initiative, set the pace, shape the environment. Be the storm, not the shelter. When you control the dynamic, the opponent's next move is no longer a mystery. It's yours to design. Strategy 16. Hit them where it hurts. The center of gravity strategy. Offensive warfare. Now it gets surgical. In Strategy 16, Robert Greene shows that true power lies not in attacking everywhere, but in striking exactly where it matters most. This is the center of gravity strategy. Identify your enemy's source of strength and take it out. Every person, every organization, every force has a central pillar, a point everything else depends on. It might be a powerful leader, a key revenue stream, a public image, or a trusted alliance. If you strike there, you don't need a long campaign. You just pull the thread that unravels the whole system. Greene draws from the brilliance of military tacticians like Karl von Clausewitz, who taught that instead of fighting head-on against the enemy's full strength, you should look deeper. What sustains them? What keeps them standing? Once found, hit fast, hard, and with total focus. In personal life or business, this might mean targeting a rival's best client, exposing a foundational lie in someone's argument, or undermining the person others look to for direction. It's not about attacking for show. It's about efficiency. One precise strike can do more than 100 wasted efforts. This strategy requires patience and intelligence. You must study your opponent. Don't rush in. Watch, analyze, isolate the core, and strike when they least expect it. The beauty? Once the center collapses, the rest often falls apart on its own. So don't waste energy on the edges. Go for the heart. End it quickly. Strategy 17. Defeat them in detail. The divide and conquer strategy. Part 4. Offensive warfare. In Strategy 17, Robert Greene reveals one of the oldest and most ruthless principles of domination: divide, isolate, and dismantle. This is the divide and conquer strategy, a method not of brute force, but of strategic fragmentation. Instead of fighting a united enemy head-on, you split them into parts, then destroy those parts one by one. Greene shows how unity is the source of strength for any group: an army, a corporation, a movement, even a social circle. When people stand together, they're bold, but once distrust, jealousy, or confusion spreads among them, they crumble from within. That's where you strike. To use this strategy, you must first become a subtle manipulator. Find fault lines, ideological differences, personal rivalries, unequal rewards, egos. Exploit them carefully. Play allies against each other. Offer selective praise or favor to stir envy. Feed conflicting narratives. Divide leadership. Keep them focused on each other, not on you. In battles, this means splitting forces physically. In politics or business, it's psychological. Isolate the key decision maker or neutralize opposition through fragmentation. Once your target is no longer a single strong wall, but a series of disconnected bricks, you move in and break it apart easily. But Greene warns, conceal your hand. Open division creates suspicion. The best divide and conquer attacks happen invisibly. People must believe they're acting on their own free will, even as you pull the strings. In short, don't take on the group, break it apart. Because nothing falls faster than something once united and suddenly alone. Strategy 18. Expose and attack your opponent's soft flank. The turning strategy. Part 4. Offensive warfare. In Strategy 18, Robert Greene urges you to stop wasting time on frontal assaults, because the strongest part of your enemy is exactly where they want you to hit. Instead, use the turning strategy. Find the weak spot, the soft flank, and strike where they least expect it. Most people, teams, or systems have a carefully guarded front, their obvious strength, defended with pride and confidence. But the more someone defends one area, the more they leave others exposed. Greene teaches you to stop charging at the gate and start circling around the fortress. Use misdirection, distraction, or silence to lull your opponent into comfort, then strike from the side, mentally, emotionally, or strategically. This strategy demands observation and patience. You must know your enemy better than they know themselves. Where are they complacent? What do they assume you won't touch? Is it their ego, their overconfidence, a neglected ally, a quiet, underfunded division? That's your entry point. Greene draws from history, where the greatest generals used feints, surprise routes, and nighttime maneuvers to bypass strength and hit the vulnerable. The same applies in negotiations, competition, and even relationships. Approach indirectly, unsettle your target, then move indecisively. He warns not to confuse this with cowardice. You're not avoiding confrontation. You're redefining the battlefield. Victory isn't about honorably crashing into your rival's sword. It's about outthinking them until they realize too late that the real fight was never where they thought it was. Go where they aren't looking and end it there. Strategy 19. Envelop the enemy. The annihilation strategy. Part 4. Offensive warfare. In Strategy 19, Robert Greene brings you into the mindset of total domination with the annihilation strategy. Don't just defeat your enemy, Surround, smother, and erase their ability to ever threaten you again. This strategy is about more than winning. It's about making your victory complete. Greene argues that too many people stop after a partial success, thinking a retreating enemy is finished, or assuming a competitor will stay down after a single blow. But history shows that enemies left standing, physically, reputationally, or psychologically, always return. So instead of half measures, you must envelop them, cut off their exits, overwhelm from all sides, and leave no route to regroup. This doesn't mean cruelty for cruelty's sake. It's a strategic necessity. The longer your opponent has space to breathe, the more likely they are to rebuild, retaliate, or rally sympathy. Greene highlights legendary commanders like Hannibal and Alexander the Great, who mastered encirclement tactics, collapsing their enemy's will by making escape or resistance seem futile. In modern terms, this can mean saturating the market so rivals have no room, cornering someone politically so their allies abandon them, or socially isolating a manipulator so their influence evaporates. Key here is completeness, not rage. Your moves must be calculated, cold, and final. Greene reminds you, true power is when your opponent not only loses, but loses the will to fight again. So don't settle for pushing them back. Surround them, cripple them, end it. Because unfinished wars always come back to haunt. Strategy 20. Maneuver them into weakness. The ripening for the sickle strategy. Part 4. Offensive warfare. In Strategy 20, Robert Greene introduces one of the most elegant and psychologically refined tactics in warfare. Let your enemy ripen, then strike at their weakest moment. This is the ripening for the sickle strategy, drawn from the wisdom that the best harvest comes not from force, but from timing. Rather than charging headlong into conflict, Greene teaches you to maneuver subtly, shaping the battlefield until your opponent is out of position, overextended, or emotionally vulnerable. The goal is to guide them, without their awareness, into a place of weakness, and then cut them down swiftly and decisively. Great strategists, Greene notes, don't just react to the enemy, they influence their movements. They use feints, false openings, and provocations to guide opponents into bad decisions. Let them think they're winning. Let them push too far. Let them grow cocky, tired, or distracted. And just as a fruit must ripen before harvest, so too must your enemy arrive at peak vulnerability. This strategy requires restraint and patience. It's about choosing the perfect moment, not just any moment. Greene warns that if you strike too soon, the enemy may recover. Strike too late, and the opportunity slips away. But strike at the perfect time, and it takes only a single blow to end the conflict. This isn't brute force, it's strategic farming. You're cultivating defeat, shaping behavior, and turning confidence into collapse. Guide, wait, cut. That's how you win with elegance and finality. Strategy 21. Negotiate while advancing. The diplomatic war strategy. Part 4. Offensive warfare. In Strategy 21, Robert Greene exposes the strategic power of duality. Talk peace while preparing for war. This is the diplomatic war strategy, a method used by master tacticians to disarm their enemies, not with weapons but with words, while gaining the upper hand through stealth and preparation. Greene reminds us that diplomacy and warfare are not opposites. They are two sides of the same blade. While others think in black and white, either I fight or I negotiate, the true strategist does both, and often at the same time. The trick? Use diplomacy not as a moral gesture, but as a weapon of control. While your enemy is lulled into dialogue and compromise, you're quietly building alliances, strengthening your position, buying time, and preparing your next move. Greene cites historical figures like Bismarck and Roosevelt, who mastered the art of negotiating on the surface while advancing their real agendas beneath. The brilliance of this strategy is in its psychological fog. By appearing reasonable, calm, and cooperative, you lower the enemy's guard. They misread your intentions, thinking they're dealing with a peacemaker, when really you're a tactician tightening the noose. But Greene warns, don't let diplomacy delay your momentum. Talk, yes, but always keep moving forward. The moment you negotiate from weakness, you lose power. So while your enemies smile at the table, keep your sword sharp under the cloak. Negotiate to distract, delay, and divide, never to surrender. Strategy 22. Know how to end things, the exit strategy. Part 4. Offensive warfare. In Strategy 22, Robert Greene delivers one of the most underrated yet essential skills of a master strategist, the ability to end things well. This is the exit strategy, knowing when, why, and how to walk away from a battle, a relationship, a deal, or even a war. Greene warns that many people stay too long, out of pride, fear, or emotional attachment. They overextend, overstay, or cling to dying projects or toxic alliances, turning a temporary setback into long-term damage. The smart strategist knows that a graceful, planned exit can preserve resources, protect reputation, and set the stage for a future return. He draws examples from great leaders and generals who didn't just know how to win, but also how to withdraw with dignity when it served the bigger picture. Retreat isn't always defeat. It can be preparation, repositioning, or even victory in disguise. But Greene cautions, never make an exit out of panic or weakness. The key is control. Your exit must look intentional, strategic, and ideally leave your opponent confused or overconfident. Leave behind a question, not a collapse. And never burn every bridge. Leave doors open if they might serve you later. In life, this could mean quitting a job that's become a dead end, ending a deal that drains more than it delivers, or walking away from a fight that distracts from your mission. So don't cling. Don't drown in sunk costs. End strong. Exit like a tactician, not a casualty. Strategy 23. Weave a seamless blend of fact and fiction. Misperception strategies. Part 5. Unconventional, dirty warfare. In Strategy 23, Robert Greene ventures into the shadowy art of deception with the misperception strategies, techniques that blend reality and illusion to control how others see you, and more importantly, how they misunderstand you. The core idea? Perception is more powerful than truth. People act not on facts, but on how they perceive facts. Greene argues that if you can shape perception, you can manipulate behavior without ever drawing your sword. It's not lying. It's storytelling. It's giving people just enough of the truth to anchor the illusion. Throughout history, great strategists, from Napoleon to media moguls, have used misdirection, ambiguity, and false narratives to gain the upper hand. They crafted images, planted rumors, and built reputations that made people underestimate or fear them. Why fight when you can win through confusion? Greene urges you to control your own legend. If you don't shape how others see you, they'll invent their own, often to your disadvantage. By blending fact and fiction, hiding strength behind humility, cloaking ambition and charm, you keep opponents off balance. They'll attack shadows while you move freely. But Greene also warns, don't get caught in your own illusions. Your false image is a tool, not your identity. Never lose sight of the real battlefield behind the mask. In a world obsessed with optics, the ability to distort perception without being detected is a rare form of power. So craft the narrative, bend the lens, and win before the fight even begins. Strategy 24. Take the line of least expectation. The ordinary, extraordinary strategy. Part 5. Unconventional, dirty warfare. In Strategy 24, Robert Greene presents a powerful tactic rooted in the element of surprise. Do the unexpected by mixing the ordinary with the extraordinary. This is the ordinary, extraordinary strategy, where your greatest strength lies in being underestimated, until the moment you strike with brilliance. Greene explains that people are naturally drawn to patterns and predictability. When your actions are routine or familiar, others stop paying close attention. But once you've lulled them into comfort with the ordinary, you unleash something shocking, unconventional, or bold. And that surprise creates chaos, confusion, and psychological advantage. This approach is especially effective in asymmetric conflict, when you are smaller, weaker, or appear less threatening. Greene points to guerrilla fighters, disruptive entrepreneurs, and historical underdogs who played the part of the average or meek, only to turn the tables with a move no one saw coming. The key is rhythmic unpredictability. Mix consistency with sudden disruption. Dress plain, act polite, speak modestly until the moment comes to flip the script. Then strike with creativity, speed, or audacity. The contrast between what was expected and what actually happens multiplies your impact. Greene cautions, this strategy requires patience and timing. If you show your brilliance too soon, you lose the element of surprise. If you wait too long, the moment slips. Used wisely, the ordinary, extraordinary approach turns your weakness into camouflage and your boldness into shock power. Be plain, Be boring, be forgettable until you're unforgettable. That's how surprise becomes strategy. Strategy 25. Occupy the moral high ground, the righteous strategy. Part 5. Unconventional dirty warfare. In Strategy 25, Robert Greene explores one of the most manipulative yet effective weapons in psychological warfare, the moral high ground. This is the righteous strategy, and it's all about cloaking your aggression, ambition, or manipulation in the language of virtue and justice. Greene argues that people are more easily controlled through morality than fear. When you present your cause as righteous, noble, or ethical, even if it's fueled by self-interest, you gain supporters, disarm critics, and cast your enemies as immoral or corrupt. The beauty? People often want to believe they are fighting for a good cause, and you can use that desire to your strategic advantage. This strategy has been used by revolutionary leaders, political figures, religious movements, and even corporations. By appearing as the victim, the underdog, or the voice of justice, you gain emotional momentum that's far more powerful than logic or brute force. It draws allies and paralyzes opponents who don't want to be seen as the bad guys. But Greene warns, the mask of morality must be maintained with consistency. If exposed as a fraud, your fall will be swift. So mix just enough genuine belief with calculated messaging. Make sure your enemies look worse, even if your hands are just as dirty. In a world where perception is everything, righteousness is a shield and a sword. Don't just fight for power, fight for it under the banner of virtue. Even if the war is personal, make it look like a crusade. Strategy 26. Deny them targets. The strategy, Part 5. Unconventional dirty warfare. In Strategy 26, Robert Greene introduces a deeply unconventional approach to power. Disappear, become elusive, and give your enemies nothing to strike. This is the strategy of the void, rooted in the ancient idea that the absence of form can be more powerful than form itself. Most people instinctively try to confront threats, defend territory, or fight back when challenged. But Greene flips that instinct on its head. Instead of engaging, he urges you to become fluid, shapeless, and intangible so that your enemies cannot find a point of attack. When they try to strike, they hit air. When they prepare to trap you, you've already vanished. This strategy borrows from guerrilla warfare, Taoist philosophy, and Zen minimalism. It's about denying the enemy satisfaction, clarity, or control. Greene illustrates how elusive political figures, disruptive businesses, or rebels often frustrate and outlast stronger opponents simply by refusing to play by the expected rules. Practically, this means not reacting emotionally, not taking a public stand until necessary, and not giving away your strategy or position. In arguments, it's refusing to engage. In negotiations, it's using silence as power. In war, it's never being where the enemy expects you. But Greene warns, don't confuse invisibility with weakness. The void isn't emptiness, it's potential. It draws in energy, frustrates opponents, and creates space for your own terms. Be unreadable, be unreachable, be ungraspable, because the strongest form of defense isn't a wall, it's the absence of one. Strategy 27. Seem to work for the interests of others while furthering your own. The alliance strategy. Unconventional, dirty warfare. In Strategy 27, Robert Greene explores the deceptive art of forming alliances, not for loyalty or friendship, but for strategic advantage. This is the alliance strategy, where the goal is to appear supportive while subtly pushing your own agenda beneath the surface. Greene argues that no one succeeds alone, but entering partnerships blindly is dangerous. Alliances are often temporary and transactional. What matters is how you use them. Instead of openly dominating others, present yourself as helpful, loyal, and aligned with their goals. People drop their guard when they believe you're on their side. That's when you maneuver. The genius of this strategy lies in camouflage. By appearing subordinate or cooperative, you mask ambition and create dependency. Over time, you position yourself to control from within. Whether in politics, business, or personal relationships, Greene shows how power often flows not from overt leadership, but from influence behind the throne. He also advises using alliances to outsource risk. Let others take the public blows while you reap the quiet rewards. Use their networks, resources, and reputations as a ladder, but always with your own exit plan. Still, Greene warns, don't be obvious or overplay your role. The alliance must feel genuine. If exposed, you'll be seen as a traitor rather than a strategist. In the end, alliances are like bridges. Use them to cross rivers, but never forget which side you're really on. Work together on the surface, but move for yourself underneath. That's how quiet allies become silent conquerors. Strategy 27. Seem to work for the interests of others while furthering your own. The alliance strategy, part 5, unconventional, dirty warfare. In Strategy 27, Robert Greene explores the deceptive art of forming alliances, not for loyalty or friendship, but for strategic advantage. This is the alliance strategy, where the goal is to appear supportive while subtly pushing your own agenda beneath the surface. Greene argues that no one succeeds alone, but entering partnerships blindly is dangerous. Alliances are often temporary and transactional. What matters is how you use them. Instead of openly dominating others, present yourself as helpful, loyal, and aligned with their goals. People drop their guard when they believe you're on their side. That's when you maneuver. The genius of this strategy lies in camouflage. By appearing subordinate or cooperative, you mask ambition and create dependency. Over time, you position yourself to control from within. Whether in politics, business, or personal relationships, Greene shows how power often flows not from overt leadership, but from influence behind the throne. He also advises using alliances to outsource risk. Let others take the public blows while you reap the quiet rewards. Use their networks, resources, and reputations as a ladder, but always with your own exit plan. Still, Greene warns, don't be obvious or overplay your role. The alliance must feel genuine. If exposed, you'll be seen as a traitor rather than a strategist. In the end, alliances are like bridges. Use them to cross rivers, but never forget which side you're really on. Work together on the surface, but move for yourself underneath. That's how quiet allies become silent conquerors. Strategy 28. Give your rivals enough rope to hang themselves, the one-upmanship strategy. Part 5. Unconventional, dirty warfare. In Strategy 28, Robert Greene introduces a cunning psychological technique. Let your rivals destroy themselves. This is the one-upmanship strategy, a subtle power move where instead of confronting your enemies head-on, you step back and give them the freedom to overplay their hand. Greene explains that the need to outshine, dominate, or win often lead people to reveal their flaws, especially when they feel challenged. When you provoke that need subtly, your rival may try to prove themselves too hard, take unnecessary risks, or act out emotionally. Instead of fighting them, you simply set the stage for their fall. The art lies in strategic restraint. Let them believe they are winning. Compliment them, agree with them, feed their ego, all while quietly planting traps, challenges they can't resist, opportunities that are actually risks, or expectations they can't meet. The moment they fail or embarrass themselves, you step in calmly and confidently. This strategy is particularly useful in environments where open conflict is frowned upon, like offices, diplomacy, or public life. Rather than looking aggressive, you appear reasonable, even supportive, while others ruin their credibility. Greene warns, however, that you must control your own emotions. Don't rush the process or try to humiliate your rival openly. The key is invisible manipulation, not gloating victory. In the end, your enemy defeats themselves with their own arrogance. You don't push them off the cliff, you just step aside. Let gravity and their ego do the work. Strategy 29. Take small bites. The fait accompli strategy, unconventional dirty warfare. In Strategy 29, Robert Greene unveils the quiet art of conquest by accumulation, the fait accompli strategy. Instead of a grand assault that provokes resistance, this approach encourages taking small, seemingly harmless steps that gradually add up to total control. Each move feels minor until it's too late to reverse. A fait accompli is a move made so subtly or swiftly that by the time anyone notices, it's already done. Greene explains that this strategy thrives in politics, business, and personal power struggles. You advance inch by inch, making your actions seem insignificant, temporary, or even unintentional. Opponents don't resist because each step feels tolerable until they wake up to find the balance of power completely shifted. Think of a company slowly monopolizing a market through quiet acquisitions, or a rival inching closer to leadership through favors and incremental responsibilities. No alarms are raised, but momentum builds. Greene points out that people are far more likely to oppose sudden dramatic change than a gradual drift, even if the outcome is the same. This strategy relies on patience, subtlety, and emotional control. Each bite must be small enough to avoid triggering defense mechanisms, yet purposeful enough to move the campaign forward. Eventually, you present the final result as inevitable, leaving others no choice but to accept it. The lesson? Don't storm the gates. Slip through the cracks. Build empires one quiet step at a time until the final piece falls into place and all they can say is, "It's already done." Strategy 30. Penetrate their minds. Communication strategies. Part 5. Unconventional dirty warfare. In Strategy 30, Robert Greene reveals that the real battlefield isn't always physical. It's psychological. The most enduring victories come not from force, but from controlling how people think. This is the heart of the communication strategies, not just what you say, but how your message embeds itself in others' minds. Greene argues that most communication is dull, predictable, and easy to ignore. If you want to influence people, you must be strategic with words, tone, symbols, and silence. Whether you're a leader, negotiator, or competitor, your goal is to craft messages that trigger emotion, implant ideas, and reshape perception without obvious effort. He draws on history's greatest communicators, from Julius Caesar to propaganda masters, who understood that repetition, metaphor, mystery, and storytelling are far more powerful than dry facts or rational arguments. A well-placed phrase can haunt, inspire, or guide someone's behavior long after it's been spoken. The strategy also involves active listening and reading subtle cues. By understanding what your target wants to hear, you can tailor your message to fit their desires or fears, making it easier to guide their reactions without resistance. Greene cautions that sloppy or careless communication can backfire. If your words are forgettable, unclear, or too transparent, you lose credibility and control. Every message must be designed, not tossed out. In warfare and in life, your words are your weapons, so don't just talk. Invade minds, leave thoughts behind, and win the war before the real battle even begins. Strategy 31. Destroy from within, the inner front strategy. Part 5. Unconventional dirty warfare. In Strategy 31, Robert Greene reveals a particularly insidious yet powerful method of warfare, destroying your enemy from the inside out. This is the inner front strategy, a way to erode the foundations of your opponent's strength, not by direct confrontation, but through internal collapse. Rather than attacking a force from the outside, Greene urges you to look inward, at their organization, team, alliances, or even their sense of self. The idea is to sow doubt, division, disloyalty, and instability from within. Once internal trust is broken, a group or individual becomes weak, distracted, and vulnerable. You don't need to fight them head-on. They crumble under their own confusion. This strategy has been used in military and political campaigns throughout history. Spies turning insiders, rebellions cultivated from within, or corporate rivals infiltrating through partnerships. Greene also shows how in personal power struggles, emotional manipulation and psychological pressure can create inner conflict, making someone defeat themselves. The key tools here are subtlety and patience. You might spread rumors, plant seeds of jealousy, exploit rivalries, or encourage reckless ambition in a key figure, then sit back and watch them self-destruct. The enemy becomes too focused on fighting themselves to notice your advance. But Greene warns, this strategy requires stealth and distance. If your hand is exposed, it can backfire. The destruction must seem self-inflicted, so if direct assault is too risky, take a quieter route. Turn their strength into weakness from the inside, because the sharpest blade is the one they never saw growing within. Strategy 32. Dominate while seeming to submit, the passive aggression strategy. Part V. Unconventional dirty warfare. In Strategy 32, Robert Greene dives into one of the most deceptive and effective forms of power, appearing submissive while secretly pulling the strings. This is the passive aggression strategy, where you dominate not through open force, but through indirect control, manipulation, and subtle defiance. Greene argues that not all battles are won by confrontation. In fact, direct resistance often provokes retaliation and reveals your intentions. But by playing the subordinate, appearing compliant, agreeable, or even helpless, you can lower defenses, gain access, and observe from within. Meanwhile, your passive mask hides a calculated effort to undermine, outmaneuver, or outlast your rivals. This strategy thrives in environments where open aggression is punished. Workplaces, family structures, social hierarchies. Rather than challenge authority, you absorb it, learning the terrain until the opportunity to reverse roles presents itself. Greene shows how employees, political figures, and historical underdogs have used passive aggression to slowly gain leverage and eventually replace their superiors. Techniques include strategic delays, feigned incompetence, selective silence, over-cooperation, or exaggerated flattery, each laced with subtle sabotage or quiet rebellion. The power lies in the psychological confusion it creates. Your opponent doesn't know whether you're a threat or an ally until it's too late. But Greene warns, this method demands emotional discipline. Passive aggression is a long game, not a tantrum. You must remain calm, unreadable, and patient. In a world that watches what you say and do, dominate with what they can't see. Obey on the surface, rule underneath. Strategy 33. Sow uncertainty and panic through acts of terror, the chain reaction strategy. Part 5. Unconventional dirty warfare. In Strategy 33, Robert Greene unleashes the most explosive and psychological tactic in his arsenal. Create chaos so contagious that fear spreads faster than your actual power. This is the chain reaction strategy, where a well-placed, dramatic action sends shockwaves, causing your opponents to unravel without a sustained attack. At the core of this strategy is terror, not necessarily violence, but psychological shock. Greene explains that people fear what they don't understand, what feels random, and what breaks their sense of control. By acting in ways that are sudden, extreme, or unconventional, you create confusion and force others into defensive, irrational reactions. One act of symbolic aggression, an unpredictable move, an unorthodox decision, or a bold betrayal can trigger a chain of overreactions, weakening your enemies from the inside. He draws on examples from history where revolutionary leaders, cunning rebels, and corporate disruptors used drama and unpredictability to rattle established powers. These acts don't need to be frequent, just precise, memorable, and loaded with psychological weight. The goal is not destruction, but destabilization. Greene emphasizes the importance of amplification. Let rumors swirl. Let fear grow larger than reality. Panic often causes more damage than the action that sparked it, but this strategy must be handled with care. Too much chaos and you lose control yourself. The terror must be strategic, not senseless. In the end, it's not about the blow, it's about the echo. Strike once, let fear do the rest. Turn reaction into collapse. That's chain reaction warfare. Before you go, ask yourself this: are you the strategist or the one being played? If this breakdown sparks something in you, imagine what mastering all 33 strategies could do. So don't just scroll away. Like, comment your favorite strategy, share this with your inner circle, and subscribe for more mind-sharpening insights. Power isn't given, it's learned, one move at a time. You're already ahead of the crowd just by being here. Now finish strong. Hit that bell icon so you never miss a mental weapon again. This isn't entertainment, it's mental warfare training, and you just leveled up.